Ladies and gentlemen, I, Jed Curran, am the constituency returning officer. I'm going to read out the results for the Mayor of London at the constituency level. These are not results, these are actually the figures from Merton and Wandsworth, and they'll be combined with the other votes across London. And the same applies to the London-wide Assembly member. So I'll read out the figures for Merton and Wandsworth. And then finally, I will declare what is a result, which is the election of the constituency member for Merton and Wandsworth. So the Mayor of London at the constituency level votes in Merton and Wandsworth in the GLA 2021 elections are as follows. Sean Bailey, Conservative Party candidate, 59,460 first preference votes and 17,524 second preference votes. Kambalaev, Renew, 509 first preference votes, 990 second preference votes. Sian Berry, Green Party, 14,050 first preference votes and 38,049 second preference votes. Count Binface for Mayor of London, 1,865 first preference votes and 5,423 second preference votes. Valerie Brown, the Burning Pink Party, 325 first preference votes and 701 second preference votes. Piers Corbyn, Let London Live, 1,090 first preference votes and 1,870 second preference votes. Max Fosh, Independent, 512 first preference votes, 1,805 second preference votes. Lawrence Fox, the Reclaim Party, 3,334 first preference votes and 8,758 second preference votes. Peter John Gammons, UKIP, 644 first preference votes, 8,758 second preference votes. Richard John Howard Hewison, Rejoin EU, 1,870 first preference votes, 5,143 second preference. Vanessa Helen Hudson, Animal Welfare Party, People, Animals and Environment, 1,057 first preference, 4,156 second preference. Steve Kelleher, Social Democratic Party, 478 first preference, 1,772 second preference. Sadiq Aman Khan, Labour Party, 76,403 first preference votes and 27,277 second preference votes. David Curtin, Heritage Party, 568 first preference votes, 1,395 second preference. Farah London, Independent, 607 first preference, 2,661 second preference. Nimza Bungay, Independent, 479 first preference, 1,248 second preference. Nico Omilana, Independent, 2,202 first preference votes, 3,975 second preference. Louisa Manon-Porritt, Liberal Democrats, 9,445 first preference votes, 22,700 second preference. Mandu Kate Reid, Vote Women's Equality Party on Orange, 1,535 first preference votes, 6,066 second preference. Brian Benedict Rose, London Real Party, 1,869 first preference, 2,524 second preference. There were 5,474 rejected papers and The overall system electorate was 387,795, which means the turnout was 47%. I'm now recording the figures for the London-wide Assembly member recorded for Merton and Wandsworth. Animal Welfare Party, 2,959. Christian People's Alliance, 1,608. Communist Party of Britain, 462. Conservatives, 55,625. Green Party, 22,852. The Heritage Party, 802. The Labour Party, 67,251. Let London Live, 851. Liberal Democrats, 15,860. Londependents, 251. London Real Party, 1,018. National Liberal Party, Self-Determination for All, 130. Reform UK, London Deserves Better, 1,421. Rejoin EU, 3,460. Social Democratic Party, 482. Trade Unionist and Socialist Coalition, 362. UKIP, 1,184. Vote Women's Equality Party on Orange, 3,985. And this is now the declaration of the result for the constituency member for Merton and Wandsworth. As the constituency returning officer for the election held on the 6th of May 2021 of the London Assembly member for Merton and Wandsworth constituency, I hereby give notice that the number of votes recorded at the election is as follows. Louise Roberta Daisy Calland, Conservative Party candidate, 60,968. Leonie Alison Cooper, Labour and Cooperative Party, 75,468. Roger Edwin Gravett, Reform UK, 3,080. Pippa Maslin, Green Party, 22,793. Sue Wixley, Liberal Democrats, 18,818. There were 2,417 papers that were rejected, and I therefore declare that Leonie Alison Cooper has been duly elected as the London Assembly member for the Merton and Wandsworth constituency.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank the returning officer, and I'd like to thank all of the staff who've been here since 7 o'clock this morning, working really hard to make sure that the declarations in all these gigantic London Assembly constituencies come through today. It's a privilege to be making this speech, having just won the vote in 2021, but of course, because of COVID, this election almost started and then was stopped last year. So I'd also particularly like to thank not just the staff, but also all of the people who formed part of my campaign team throughout this incredibly peculiar campaign, where it's been so difficult for all politicians of all parties to contact the electorate. I'd especially like to thank my agent, Robbie Scott, who was my agent when I won for the first time in 2016. And I'd also like to thank the people who've really helped with the organisation across the whole of the constituency. I'd like to thank Dario, who's the Wandsworth organiser. I'd like to thank Sam, who worked wonders in Putney, Chloe, who worked wonders in Bedford, and there was more than a 50% turnout there in that ward. And I'd like to thank Harry, who was growing great guns in Mitcham and Morden, along with Martin and with Mark. and also with Dave, who's not with us today. It's been an amazing campaign. Once we were able to get out onto the doorsteps and talk to people, it made such a difference. And despite the delay of a year, people were really, really pleased to see us, and I think that's a tribute to the fact that Londoners are going to be coming back from COVID very soon. It was an absolute privilege in 2016 to be elected alongside Sadiq Khan. I've been able in those 5 years to follow my passions, particularly on the environment as the chair and then the deputy chair of the Environment Committee, and for the last 2 also taking on the task of chairing the Economy Committee, and that's the area where we really need to win back and try and rebuild London's economy alongside the rest of the country. But of course I'm very fortunate. I represent the most beautiful London Assembly seat. Merton and Wandsworth are the most fantastic places, from the wilds of Tooting Common, just near where I live, to the manicured Battersea Park. But we also have the amazing beauty of Wimbledon Common, Mitcham Common, Putney Heath. I'm not going to go through every open space because I'm fairly sure you only want a 3-minute speech and not a 4-hour speech. But we are blessed to live in such an amazing part of southwest London. I've stood up for nature at City Hall. I've stood up for our open spaces in Merton and Wandsworth, and also across London. And I hope that when I get back to City Hall, having been re-elected, that I will be able to continue this work, meeting the challenge of mitigation and adaptation of the climate emergency. Building back from COVID, we need to ensure that London works for all of us, that it embraces everyone, regardless of where they've come from, and that we meet the challenge of the climate emergency going forward. And I am very confident that if Sadiq Khan is re-elected as the mayor, which I very much hope that he will be very shortly, that he is going to rise to that challenge. And I look forward to working collaboratively as the Assembly does cross-party. And I look forward to working with Sadiq Khan and all Assembly colleagues to deliver a brighter future for London, and particularly for Merton and Wandsworth. Thank you.